If you like, while we're waiting, we can just, just kind of maybe bring our awareness to the present. And just noticing where you're sitting, noticing the sensations of the clothes on your body, just getting a sense of where you're seated. Just kind of tuning into that sense or feeling of weight of our body. It's And if you like, just also noticing the flow of the breath and the sense of the feeling of the breath as it moves in the body. And just giving our mind permission to kind of let go of the activity of the day. Kind of simply enjoy sitting and breathing. Not having any goal or image of wanting to be calm or settled or feel a different way, just kind of letting go and just simply sitting and breathing. Just being aware of the kind of felt quality of that. And sometimes it can be helpful to let the out breath be a kind of relaxation breath. So we breathe out, we kind of relax and settle. Okay, thanks. Yeah, so got a big group today. Yeah, and so Josh, I was mentioning our text, it's a very kind of open, just an open hour, and see where it goes. Every discussion's been a little bit different. Yeah, I like to kind of either just check in to see if anybody has kind of questions, interests, not sure, like even kind of sharing like what brought you to this class today, or just kind of Buddhist tradition in general.
Okay, so just kind of a free flow sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would say I'm definitely a beginner to Buddhism in general. As a practice, for sure, I think I have a pretty good understanding, at least conceptually, of how it works, like the metaphysics and all that sort of thing, as much as you can understand it. But I never really developed any sort of practice, no meditation practice or anything. When I was younger, I couldn't really figure it out, I guess. It's been a really long time since I've studied anything Buddhist at all. I was into it when I was a teenager. Didn't really understand it at all. I think I have a better understanding now, but still I'm trying to play catch up, I guess, with the practice part. So
Right on.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you kind of came across something in high school, maybe, or?
It was a little after that. I was kind of in my like edgy atheist phase, I guess you could say, and without really knowing what I was looking for, I found what did I read? I forgot what it was. It's been such a long time. I read some sort of introductory work on just like the fundamentals of Buddhism. And it made a lot of sense to me. And now as well, currently it still makes sense to me. Basically at every level it seems to work. It works. It functions properly as a system as far as I can tell. But just I couldn't really figure out how to meditate and how to focus my mind and all that sort of thing. Like, again, I understand how it's supposed to work at an intellectual level, and as far as the practice goes, I couldn't.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, but the Buddhist tradition kind of, so it has very clear there's maps, and then there's like the journey of it, like you said, like, and it's great. Like we kind of need both sides. Like the maps can kind of bring clarity to what we're kind of building to, and meditation is kind of a very vague word in our culture, and just like infinite meditations. But what the purpose is, what's the framework, what's the goal, what are the approaches, the intention behind it, and so forth are important. So so those are the kind of the two sides of it, like understanding the map and kind of context of it, and then like seeing the map of map driving to a national park or something like that. It's nice and inspiring. It makes sense, and I can see like, oh, if I can drive there, but we're making the journey and enjoying the process and so forth. And Buddhism kind of pushes that, pushes the right word, but encourages like the experiential component.
Right.
It's very like kind of a utilitarian kind of you'd say,
Hmm.
approach. It's not belief, necessarily belief based, although belief and faith are kind of components in the Buddhist kind of journey, in the sense of like, okay, I'm not obviously I'm not enlightened, but I can see, I can see how if I can see how I can become more compassionate. I can see how my mind can become more peaceful. I can see the potential and so forth. So there's a kind of a trust or faith that
Yeah, it's a different sort, I guess, right? It's not belief, I suppose, but it's faith that the system works based on, there's what, 2,000 or so years of tradition, multiple traditions, and there's plenty of evidence of it working. There's lots of people that have succeeded.
Yeah.
So it's faith in that sense that if you dedicate yourself to it, it will work.
Time tested. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there have maybe not machines yet to measure. Although some of the brain activity of some of these kind of advanced meditators can be kind of startling. But yeah, it is. There is a. Yeah, like you said, it's been replicated and passed down, and it's a living wisdom tradition in the sense of an experiential kind of lineage passed down from the time of the Buddha. The Buddhist tradition says from time unbroken kind of, discipleship or apprenticeship or whatever you want to, student teacher kind of process through, over the last few thousand years.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most appealing things for me, is that there's the unbroken lineage going back to the beginning, really.
Yeah, which is quite extraordinary that humans have been able to create that. The Buddha's kind of teaching career, once after he was kind of discover that awakening, it was 45 years. So he taught for 45 years. It was a long time. He was able to have a strong impact and get a kind of structure going, which was, I'm sure, very helpful for the tradition to kind of continue and as a living wisdom culture. Yeah. Yeah, so then let's see. Yeah, so the term meditation in the Tibetan tradition, the kind of the literal translation of the word gom means to familiarize oneself or to become familiar with. And the Sanskrit word that the Tibetan word is based off of, I believe, is bhavana. And I've heard that the kind of etymology of bhavana is it's kind of like cultivation, to bring into being or to kind of cultivate. I like those words because what we're kind of doing in Buddhist meditation is starting to become familiar with ourselves, starting to become familiar with how our mind functions, our patterns of mind, our thought patterns, our emotional patterns. We're also starting to become familiar with the kind of insubstantiality of thoughts, and starting to develop an insight of the kind of transitoriness of thoughts. And over time, we start to discover that there's, aspects of mind or aspects of our awareness that isn't thought, isn't just kind of fused and kind of overrun with kind of a flood of thinking. That becomes very interesting. to start to see a different kind of aspect of our experience that's present every moment, but we're just not really we haven't engaged in steady familiarization with this kind of aspect of our awareness. And yeah, so that can be very powerful and very helpful. And, and the kind of source of kind of faith or confidence ultimately is in this kind of innate nature. There's a concept of Buddha nature, this kind of innate kind of clarity and innate positivity and goodness and kind of innate relaxation and blissfulness and kind of space-like, kind of open, free nature of our awareness when we're able to kind of detangle ourselves from the kind of roughness of thought and emotion, or kind of agitated emotion, or reactionary kind of emotions and thoughts. So little by little, we start to get glimpses of this kind of clarity and quality of mind. And once we start to get glimpses of it, we start kind of cultivating, extending, deepening. And then while we're in that kind of meditative space, also we can use thought as well. So there's one aspect is like a non-conceptual. And so when the common ideas around meditation is it's like becoming present, watching the breath, anchoring our kind of attention to something present. And the reason for that is that our sensory experience is non-conceptual. And the breath is kind of just a natural, it moves. So it's always, it's always changing. It's natural, it's simple. And it's sensory.
Right. You haven't filtered it through your perception yet. So it's not good or bad. It's just what it is.
Yeah. So we're starting to try to be able to anchor our mind pre-reaction, pre-filter, which is difficult because our mind's so fast. Like I know I'm looking at the screen with these shapes that we call letters, and because I've been taught at a young age, like when I see this one shape, I think J, or
Yep.
And it's happening so fast that I don't realize that it's just a shape. But I've trained myself to think that, so we can all, so human beings can communicate and function and survive and so on. So our reactionary kind of perception process is super fast, but we can start to get into familiarizing and anchoring through sitting practice. And so that one of the purposes of sitting meditation is that we're sitting still, we're simplifying our experience for a short time. Starting to kind of tune into that, letting thoughts move through, letting emotions be there, letting emotions move through, and starting to realize that we don't actually have to react or do much with our experience, because the reaction that creates a whole kind of
karma
structure. Karma and armoring and kind of patterns that and like our own kind of personality structures that have benefits and have different set us up for problems too.
More things that aren't permanent.
Sorry, Josh.
I was just you were saying that your the reactionary thinking just kind of reinforces the things you're trying to get past the mistaken perceptions you have that things you think about yourself that you think are permanent and don't change, but in fact are impermanent and do change moment by moment even.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that the movie Big Lebowski, like that great quote, like, it's just your opinion, man.
Yeah.
There's we kind of we're defining our world every second, every millisecond. We're kind of defining, labeling, reacting, and we can start to experientially learn that, oh, I'm just projecting this, I've already, like, my friend or my partner has walked in the door and I've already, like, I have a whole label and projection and definition already, prepackaged, but it's a fresh moment. And the nature of reality is that it's always fresh, it's always open. And, over time we can train to become more and more open and less reactionary and kind of be able to kind of rest in that kind of truer nature that's pre-reaction. And in order to do that, we also have to cultivate or sort of become familiarized with kind of healthy emotions, kind of like a healthy emotional structure, healthy, positive emotions like love, kindness, non-judgment, non-expectation, generosity of spirit, the tricky one of patience, like learning how to patience, sense of connectedness, sense of purpose, interconnection. And that would be the kind of, so one side is almost like an undoing process. We're kind of like releasing the kind of the tension and the reactionariness and really kind of calming, letting go of that and learning how to. And then the other side of it, we're also kind of building or kind of cultivating positive emotions, because they're a very powerful force for our mind. It creates peace in our relationships, which also supports that kind of letting go process. The more kind of together we are and healthy we are and kind of grounded and peaceful and uplifted we are, more open-hearted we are, that the deeper our letting go can be. So, like, loving kindness practice is popular meditation in the Buddhist tradition, compassion practices, where we actually sit and do kind of guided contemplations that allow us to kind of generate the feeling of love, feeling of friendliness, feeling of compassion, feeling of joy for others and ourselves. And kind of sitting in that feeling the strength of it, letting it kind of affect us, impact us. So, these words and these emotions are good for us, and they kind of pop up in moments of our lives, but we can actually consciously sit down and allow them to really impact us, heal our nervous system, heal our mind, heal our kind of emotional core of ourselves. And in the Tibetan tradition, typically, a kind of a daily practice would kind of include both components. So maybe there's some contemplation, fostering a positive emotion like love and kindness or compassion. We have a kind of a broader kind of kind of taking those those emotions to the furthest extent is what we call kind of bodhicitta. It's kind of awakening heart or awakening mind. Is that kind of convinced on the reality of love and compassion and the power of it and the importance of it. Kind of bring that out into kind of a universal sense of like wanting love and having love and compassion for all beings, and then seeing that enlightenment itself is the kind of fulfillment of our ability to be of service and of benefit. So this kind of compassionate kind of will or force that's kind of taking our spiritual journey as like a universal project, not just a self project. The self project is very powerful and amazing as well. Just having anybody who's sane and kind is a very great contribution to our planet. But this kind of the Mahayana tradition kind of takes it a step further and recognizes this kind of universal capacity of like a full awakening that's kind of held or kind of fueled by compassionate motivation. Yeah, and then attending some teachings from the Dalai Lama recently online, and His Holiness talks about this idea of this kind of mind of bodhicitta, this intent of bodhicitta, and this kind of insight, wisdom of call emptiness, or kind of letting go of our solidity and our belief in our projections, and opening to this kind of open kind of nature of mind. It's kind of the two foundational practices that he does every day. It's encouraging. If we wanted to really kind of boil down this kind of vast tradition to what we're really trying to cultivate, is that kind of open-heartedness and that this kind of wisdom, letting go. Yeah. Any questions and comments?
I don't want to hog the chat. You answered a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was joking. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Oh no, I was just saying I had questions, but you answered all the ones that I can think of right now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if I had to think of another one, what would you recommend for like an absolute beginner meditation practice, like the very foundational, bare bones sort of thing for someone who's never done it before?
Yeah. So some of the kind of universal prescriptions for that is kind of short sessions to start with. Short and regular is kind of usually the recommended kind of approach to the beginning. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever feels workable. You can start to do it a few times a week. That can maybe build into daily practice, but just trying a couple times, 3 times a week, maybe setting a goal that feels something doable, and then kind of building on that, maybe doing that 2 or 3 times a week for a month, if that feels right. And then feel like expanding that to 5 days a week or daily. till it takes off. It took me about a year to really hit a place where I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to do this daily.
Yeah.
I was kind of, bouncing in and out with it. And then something just kind of clicked, and I was like, okay, yeah. And that was like my, I'd say like I remember that being like a commitment that felt really like strong internally. Like I was like, no, I really want to do this, and I want to do it daily. And so, it took about a year of kind of experimenting, and I took a meditation class, so I learned, kind of meditation techniques, and I'd sit with groups, which is helpful too. Actually, there's something supportive. I know Zoom is tough, but if there's like a meditation center that's meeting in person, if you're able to go in person, just sitting with people once in a while is helpful. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's two things going on. There's one like a social, one not wanting to look bad by getting up and leaving, social pressure, but also there, that kind of communal energy is something there's a nice kind of quality of community that it's helpful to sit with people if the conditions are there. Pre-pandemic it was a lot easier, but I know it's still kind of a bit of a strange time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that there's a couple places like that here where I am. I don't know what the state is as far as like COVID restrictions go, because I know it was kind of touch and go for a while here, and a couple places just completely shut down for the duration. So I'm not sure. I'd have to get with them, I guess.
Yeah, I know with the center that's kind of putting this class on, they do. Lou, you probably might know better. I believe they have like online group meditations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do. They have it at 7:00, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 7 to 7:30.
Yeah, it's like it called express meditation or something.
AM express meditation.
Oh, it's in the morning.
Yes.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
AM.
So that's 7
Mountain time.
It's mountain time. Okay. Yeah. So early.
Yeah, that's
early rise.
Yeah.
They might have some. They also, I think, they have some evening meditations too.
The evening meditation class is mostly Vajrasattva.
Oh, Vajrasattva. Okay.
Yeah, it's a running purification thing. So.
I know. Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than just kind of settling meditation. Yeah, I'll look around for Jot and see. Yeah, I can maybe send. I'm sure I can find some links and website pages. I'll shoot you some links if there's anything that might be of interest for beginner meditation support. And I've done meditation retreats online through Zoom since the pandemic started. I've done a few kind of longer ones, and I'm surprised how great it can be. Really nice.
Yeah.
I'll have like my computer to the side, so I'm not staring at the computer while I'm meditating. But just have there, even though you're not in the room with people, there's some the guidance is actually can be quite helpful. That's kind of where we're at these days.
At least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and it can be helpful. Like, you mentioned the kind of inspiration of the living, kind of passed down human to human. The Tibetan tradition talk about it's been warm hand to warm hand. It's kind of a exchange between people. It can be helpful to do a class so you're not just reading it from a book. Although there are a lot of guided recordings actually can be very helpful. Just to get kind of the basics of what we're trying to do with meditation. And then once you get Lou, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say that on the website that we're on now, they have a whole series of YouTube videos of all the morning meditations, so you can just
Oh, nice.
play those when you watch them.
Oh, wow.
That'll be really helpful.
Okay, there you go. Nice. Yeah, time zone friendly. Yeah, that's cool.
Or early morning doesn't bother me so much. I'm up early anyway.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
So probably better than doing it in the evening after I've done a whole day of
Yeah.
work, ever being tired.
Yeah. 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 So meditation, yeah. So that's kind of what they suggest. And the reason being that, like, you don't want to push too much in the beginning because you actually want to develop a liking to it. You know, sometimes it can be, you can kind of push, it can be grueling, and then it's like, oh, I'm never going to do that again for 3 years or 10 years. So like doing the shorter kind of like enough that, yeah, to where you feel like, oh, cool, you know, like, so you come back and then you extend it as it feels appropriate, you know, down the road. Another practice in this tradition is kind of starting the day with a few moments of kind of intention setting. You know, what's motivating us for the day? You know, what's motivating us to meditate? What's, you know, motivating us in our life? Sometimes I like to kind of think of it as like, you know, what, you know, tuning in, like asking myself, like, what are my core values as a person? Like, what do I truly value? Like, what are my heart values? And kind of what's amazing, they're there. That's something that we can kind of trust in ourselves. Like, we'll know, like, okay, yeah, I really value, that's really important to me. I really value that. But again, coming back to those kind of the meanings of Tibetan word for meditation, gong, becoming familiar or cultivating like familiarity with like spending some time to recognize like what's important to us every day, like taking a couple minutes, like, oh yeah, you know, being a kind person, being, you know, good father, husband, or citizen of the world or the universe, or, you know, whatever can be our expansion. If we start to get a taste or inclination to this model or this kind of idea of enlightenment and Buddha nature, you know, seeing our Buddha, recognizing our Buddha nature as kind of maybe our true self or a deeper kind of aspect of ourself, and kind of aligning our motivation and intention based on that. And that can be a good thing to start today. And interesting that kind of conscious intention set or motivation setting is very supportive for mindfulness. Somehow, like when we're like, the more that we have a sense of alignment and purpose for what we're doing on like a daily, like a living, like not just like a vague, like, you know, thing, but like a conscious kind of like it's present for us every day. The less it starts to cut down on our distractions actually, and it's very supportive for our mindfulness or sense of being in the present. It's like when we care about something, we actually pay more attention to it, basically. And so this is kind of a process or a technique to start really having more of a conscious focus kind of sense of caring about our lives in a way that feels good, has a sense of value and purpose to it. Very, very powerful practice. And then at the end of the day, we can kind of, before we pass out, you know, just kind of see how the day went and see how our mindfulness practice went that day, and just kind of, you know, this one's always been a tricky one for me. Like, it can feel like I'm not being judgmental, but I'm being judgmental. I know I'm not, I've been taught that I shouldn't be judgmental with it, or, judgment is, harmful. But just kind of taking back and just kind of just having a look at the day and then feeling a sense of joy about anything of the day and kind of dedicating that joy to that purpose that we set in the morning. So it's kind of like in Tibetan tradition, we have like, in terms of like a practice session, if we're doing a meditation session, it'd be kind of motivation, the actual practice, and then kind of dedicating any positive energy or positivity that may have come from that practice, even if it's just that we did it. And if the practice itself was a complete hot mess, like the fact that we tried, is a little positivity, we can dedicate that.
Yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
fine. You don't get, at some level you have to be honest with yourself if you're not really living up to the intentions you made, but also you don't want to place too many value judgments on it because that could be counterproductive.
Yeah, I think it's dependent on our personality, delicate process. Yeah, and if because we can, our they've done studies where our brains are kind of more easily gravitating or tuned to negativity. Like, some studies refuted that study or whatever, but so the heart of it is the sense of dedication of any sort of positivity, and in that way, it's almost like a kind of a framing, kind of a closure to the day, and it's like you wouldn't set it your motivation necessarily. You do at the beginning, but you're kind of reaffirming that kind of your motivation of the day. And then seeing like, oh yeah, I got upset 3, 4, 5 times today, whatever.
Yeah.
Completely mindless or whatever. And so, just okay. I think so. Our problem, Buddhist point of view, our suffering comes from like something comes up, and then we either, it's like a push, distract or avoid, or exaggerate and kind of obsess or whatever. There's like we talk about that reaction. That's where our suffering begins. So, at the end of the day, our freedom starts with acceptance. And acceptance is kind of a neutral term in the sense that you're just accepting that it happened. Like, oh, okay, that happened. And
Taking it as
denying it just as it is, yeah. And trusting our intelligence, like that's all we really need to do in a way, like accept, okay, that happened. And if that acceptance can allow us to be present to painful things in ourselves or in others, I think we might get scared, like, oh, if I accept this means I'm just going to let it run wild. It's not really like that. It's more like the acceptance itself allows us to kind of see it for what it is. And our intelligence can kind of come and, like, I accepted that I got, like, oh, I was angry. That actually happened.
Right.
It's just like that happened. And then from there isn't that struggle, like, oh, I got angry. Damn it, why did I get angry? Or like, well, I was kind of angry, but it's like the whole.
Right, you just set a whole other chain of emotions by doing that, rather than just accepting what happened and moving past it.
So it's just, so and we know, like, anger has its qualities. It can be harmful, it's disturbing, it can hurt and be destructive. And so the acceptance is releasing the kind of yeah, the fear or the aversion or judgment around it, so that we can actually work with it and actually, yeah, relate to it.
I know that I didn't really recognize this when I was younger, but I think I recognize now that one of the main blocks for me to overcome for meditation specifically is that I know that, you know, I might be like focusing on my breath at the beginning or something like that, but eventually it's gonna uncover some things I might not necessarily want uncovered, might not want to deal with. And I can see that at the end of the tunnel, I guess. And I'm you know, I think I'd rather avoid that, but I know that you really can't. Not if you want to. Not if you're serious about this and you want to make progress. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and at the same time, yeah, treating ourselves with a sense of care, because, yeah, so in that, like taking it in little bites, so that, you know, if there is this feeling that there may be, we have had a lot of impactful experiences in our life, and we're sensing like that those may bubble up. Yeah, taking our time with it, being kind of gentle with it. So yeah, so I wouldn't miss, you know, jumping into like a month-long meditation retreat where you're meditating 12 hours a day.
Right. It might be a little bit much for me.
There could be a flood, yeah, kind of sense of a flood, and perhaps, you know, every individual is different, but that kind of, so just kind of gradually pacing ourselves and not necessarily, not seeing that kind of feeling, or like, okay, they're, you know, as I would say not judging that concern, you know, that sense of concern, like that might be something wise and you know, would you say, yeah, like what you need. But like you said, at the same time, there is this calling, like I do feel like I want to, like, you know, face, or I don't know what the word to use, but like, yeah, you know, kind of wake up to my life.
Yeah.
Heal and move forward.
I guess at perhaps a deeper level, no matter how bad the trauma is or whatever, I don't want to uncover. It's ultimately as impermanent as the things it causes, the feelings it causes, and the only reason I have it is because I feed it instead of resolving it.
Yeah, yeah. So the unresolved trauma has a lot of, brings a lot of side effects, and yeah, almost kind of beckons to be healed at some point. It's interesting, in this tradition, they talk about our suffering, or kind of symptoms from our pain, as like a source or a sign of Buddha nature. Like if we didn't have this kind of Buddha nature, that we wouldn't feel it, you know, we wouldn't feel pain. We wouldn't feel like if something was off and we didn't feel like it was, you know, like the fact that we have this kind of sensitivity, like we're wired, for healing, you'd say. But it's, you know, it's a skilled kind of pursuit. So I'm thinking there is something called like trauma-informed mindfulness or trauma-informed meditation that could be helpful. Trying to think of, Tara Brock does a lot of, she's a psychotherapist as well. as a Buddhist, long time Buddhist teacher. But so gentle, so it's good just respecting the kind of wisdom of knowing and the wisdom of wanting to move forward, and kind of bringing those two together kind of in a gentle way. Very powerful. And so you might also notice in this tradition, so we have the basic kind of meditations, mindfulness, loving kindness, compassion practices, Tonglen, giving and taking practice is a very powerful, simple compassion practice. And then we have these kind of visualization and mantra practices, which are kind of in the beginning also, they're kind of healing practices, where we kind of imagine a Buddha, the different kind of quality, with the different kind of color and quality. And there's a kind of imagination of like this healing kind of light and kind of like nectar, like wisdom energy. We're kind of imagining coming from this Buddha source, awakened source. And mantra is a way of subtly starting to heal our nervous system. Those can be kind of healing practices that can be very supportive as well. It's very interesting. The imagination process can be kind of like what am I doing? Come on. I imagine this green.
Those are advanced types.
What's that?
Would you say that those two are more advanced practices, or
It depends. I started with basic meditation first, and then kind of quickly gravitated like Vajrasattva. I've always felt like I just love that practice.
The thing with Vajrasattva is the whole point behind it is you create negativity with your mind, and the only way to really get rid of the negativity is with your mind using positive energy. So you may imagine all these things going on, but all they are mechanisms for you to focus your mind. Your mind does the actual purification. The Buddha doesn't purify, you purify with your own mind.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, well said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, it's imagination, but it's like helping us kind of tune into these deeper aspects of our nature, and it seems strange or like random, but the visualization processes are actually they're starting to smooth out our subtle nervous system and start to create this kind of healing process. And the mantra supports that as well. Mantra actually literally means mind protection. Man means mind, tra means protector or liberated, like liberation, mind healing, or mind. Some people are gravitating towards that right away too as well. I do like
that. That's intriguing to me. I'm going to look into that more.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit to get used to, because the mantras are in Sanskrit, so you don't know how to pronounce anything. And I can't, the imagination, but if you start to get the gist of it, like we were saying, it's the very essence of it. Yeah, just like it's a healing process, and the lights, the colors have a very strong impact on our mind, our psyche in different ways. So there's a reason for the different colors and kind of tantric psychology. There's a bit of a practical thing of getting used to it and getting the mantra down. But once you learn the mantra, it comes fast. And then once you learn, like, okay, now it's going to be doing this and this, and then you can sort of relax and really kind of go into it. But and the idea is that healing process also supports our other components of our meditation. And Vajrasattva, in particular, is kind of a manifestation or a representation of the kind of pure, clear nature of mind. This kind of a basic purity of our kind of awareness, natural awareness. So it's kind of bringing us, drawing us, healing, awakening that source in us, that kind of clear, pure source. And so it's particularly said of like a clearing practice, like purifying karma. Is one way of looking at it as well. And so so you're like basically like the Buddha Bodhisattvas, you're imagining kind of above your head, and then do some contemplations and so forth. Then like this kind of light flows down and just kind of permeates every cell in your body, permeates your nervous system. It's just flushing out toxicity. You can imagine like it's whatever you're trying to release, or it's kind of like exiting out below you into the earth, and you just keep kind of, it's like a shower, like a psychic kind of wisdom shower.
Like that wisdom shower.
It's a wisdom shower, yeah. And oftentimes in tradition, people will do it at nighttime. It's a way of just kind of emotionally, energetically, mentally cleansing.
I do it every night before I go to bed, actually.
Yeah, right on.
And it's really, I mean, it's good psychology too, because it has like 4 steps: regretting what you've done, even if you don't remember it, you just regret, not guilt, regret, and then there's reliance upon the method. Okay, I'm going to do this, and it may work, it may not work. And then there's like there's a resolve. At the end of it, you say, okay, these are the things that I'm not going to do again, or try not to do again. All very realistic. Okay, I'm not going to get angry at my wife for at least 8 hours, because I know I'm not going to be able to do it all day long. It's very psychological. It's very friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Yeah. Yeah, love stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and that's like a powerful way of, like what I was mentioning earlier, that kind of reviewing the day and dedicating and so forth. It's kind of a powerful process, because you're not also just kind of, sometimes you can just feel like you're sitting and stuck, like, okay, I feel like I regret something, but now what can I do about it? And this is a way of just like creating a kind of a positive process. Very nice.
You're holding yourself accountable too.
Yeah, and also getting a boost and support and like a release, and then like you said, like a resolve again, like just like reestablishing my result, reaffirming what's important to me. And I'll try again. Was it fail better? It's Wes says fail again and fail better. Just get a little bit better. We continue our trips and mistakes on our path. Cool. So it's about 5 West Coast, 6, 8 o'clock Florida. So maybe we can just staying true to tradition, take a moment and just bring to mind any sense of inspiration, anything, light bulbs that came up, moments of insight, or not necessarily not to be specific and internal feeling. And we just want to make a dedication of whatever positive seeds and good energy, insights that we may have generated together in discussion. Just dedicating them that they may ripen to bring about goodness in our life. And that we would one day awaken to our full potential. And of great value to all living beings. And able to awaken their full potential. And the heart of enlightenment bodhicitta, where it hasn't yet grown, beginning to grow, and where it has been begun to grow, may grow stronger and stronger for the benefit of all. Great, thanks so much. And I guess doing this, I'll be back next week, same time,
Yep.
same
Sure.
Zoom
So-
channel.
Sounds good to me.